Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you all with another review for Iyanla Fix My Life. Season 6, Episode 607, which is titled Engaged and Enraged. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I would like to say thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with people you think may like it. So let's jump right in, because I was waiting on this episode from the dough. I was really interested because of the previews to see, what the contents of this particular episode were about. And overall, I can say that I was a little bit disappointed. Not so much in Iyanla, but disappointed in the guests, that they were so closed-minded to the process. I mean, people who write into Iyanla know what Iyanla does. She gets to the root of issues. And it came off to me as if the guests this time around were not prepared to go deep. A lot of the stuff that they talked about, a lot of the things that they covered in this episode seemed very surface oriented to me, and they were not really ready to go take a deep dive into it. So let's talk about it. So this particular episode is about a couple who is moving a little fast towards the marriage arena. And so we have Jillian, who is 36 and goes by Jill. And then we have Ray, who is 37, who looks like Chris Brown. He has his leg amputated from type 2 diabetes. And for a quick timeline of their relationship, they meet online in November. By March, they move in together and commit to each other. Now they are engaged. And in July, he had his leg amputated from type 2 diabetes. So Iyanla sits down with them for the first time, and almost right away, I don't really care for Jill. And not just based on what I saw from the previews, but like legitimately, she seemed to not really have a good attitude. So, Iyanla starts out with like making a distinction between the wedding versus an actual marriage. Like, a lot of people put a lot of focus, a lot of time, energy, money into focusing on the day, the wedding day, as opposed to actually investing in what's going to happen in their marriage. Talking about, having difficult conversations about things that married people go through, like finances, who gets to discipline the children, and where are we going to live, and, who does what, and, all those types of situations. Are you two whole people who are coming together to form a union, or are you two broken people who are looking for someone to fill in the areas that you are missing, to fill in your voids? Like, what are you all mentally prepared to have a marriage, to form this type of union? And so she asks, the question, why are you here? And Jill says that they need better communication. We find out that Ray weighed over 400 pounds at one point, lost all 10 toes and his leg, and that it's coming off as if Ray has not given himself permission to actually figure out what all his health problems mean for who he is as a man. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, I guess. But the roles have been reversed in the relationship, and Jill seems to want somebody to take care of her, and now she's in a position, because of Ray's health issues, that she basically has to take care of him, and she resents him for it. And that's what we find out when Iyanla talks to Jill by herself. According to Jill, her dating history has been dating men who can do for her, men who can take her out. She seems to want a lifestyle, and I don't want to say editing did this to Jill, but it's kind of clear to me that Jill, the word gold digger seems too strong. She wants to be a kept woman, and she resents Ray because she's doing the keeping instead of being kept, and that really seems to bother her. And him not being able to do for her, her having to help with the groceries, her having to kind of take on the duty of bringing the most income in the household, them not being able to go out and do things, seems to really weigh on her. And it's like, Are you really, like, to me, we all know of the gold digger who is enjoying her life, loving her life, and then something tragic happens to the breadwinner, to her husband or boyfriend, and she sticks around for a little while because she doesn't want to seem like a gold digger, but then she eventually leaves him because she just can't deal with not having the same lifestyle as before. And I feel like Jill is in this, like, transition space between, like, leaving and staying. I just don't care for her. She came off as a gold digger to me. But moving on, she does mention that, she resents having to take care of him. She feels like he's a burden on her, and she's sad that they may not be able to have children in the traditional way. So Iyanla's like, well, what do you love about him? And she says she loves the way that he loves her. And I feel like that's not a good enough reason to love somebody. Like, you love the way somebody is into you. It seems very self-serving, and it goes back to her being, gold diggerish and kind of self-centered. And then she says, he gets me, and, like, we can talk about everything except for the hard things. And Iyanla was like, that don't make no sense. That's crazy. And so Jill immediately says that Iyanla seems like she's trying to break them up. And Iyanla always tells couples that she doesn't have an investment in whether they stay together or they don't stay together. And, that's true. Iyanla don't, like, whether or not these couples stay together or break up does not have a big impact on Iyanla. Like, why would Iyanla care if these people stay together or not? I think her purpose in these situations is to enlighten them about who they are as individuals, and give them the clarity to know whether or not staying together or breaking up is the best decision for them. She puts the focus on them making their own decision after she provides clarity, and she helps them get to this point of clarity. And when you get to that clarity, you can know for sure, and you can make that decision for yourself. But for her to accuse Iyanla of trying to break them up in the first little session that they had together was already a bad sign. But she says that she wants some tools on how to better communicate about Ray's trauma with his leg and his fertility, and that he can't perform sexually. And basically she's mad that Ray is not the same person he was when she met him, aka providing for her. That's what I got from it. But moving on, we see Iyanla talking to Ray, and we talk about his health challenges a little bit. Iyanla has to make it clear to him that there's some things that have gone on with him physically that he needs to figure out how to manage before he gets married. And so she puts up a thing, that has the four P's on it in this situation. It's protect, provide, perform, and please. And he says that basically he can't do 3 out of those 4 things. And so Iyanla says, like, what do you want to say to Jill that you haven't said already? And he's like, well, he doesn't want her to be controlling or to feel as if she has to wear the pants or that she has to do things alone and on her own. And Iyanla said something that, like, really struck a nerve with me. And she said, there's a difference between loving somebody and respecting somebody. And it's like marrying someone you love versus building a partnership with somebody that you respect. And I was like, oh, that is too real. Like, how many people, if they just heard that, would make different decisions with their lives and the people who, they choose to marry. Marrying somebody that you love or somebody that you care about is different than building a life with somebody that you respect. And that just really hit home for him in a way that I don't think he could vocalize, really. But it's interesting to me at this point in the show because Ray and Jill come off as 2 people who are all about the surface. Jill seems to be, again, like the textbook woman who's ready to leave her man the minute that he can't provide for her. And things just didn't feel right, okay? Next, we see all 3 of them together on the patio, and they're about to play a game, and Ray moved things really fast. He said that he told her he loved her in 3 weeks, and it's like, what do you know about somebody in 3 weeks? that you can tell them that you love them. What is going on with Ray that he felt the need to attach himself to somebody so quickly? That's the stuff that they need to talk about. That's the stuff that's getting down to the root, but they can't get down to the root until they have the desire to do that. And right now, it's all surface. But anyways, Iyanla asked the question, what were to happen, or what do you tell yourself about what would happen in the event that you don't get married to each other? Jill doesn't even want to speak on it. And it's like, okay, so you're having problems in your relationship with a man that can't provide for you, that can't perform in the bedroom, that can't do things for himself because he, is essentially disabled. And you resent him for it, and you can't tell him that you resent him for it, but you don't want to think about what would happen if you didn't get married. Okay, and then Ray shows his response, and it says basically the exact same thing, that he doesn't even want to think about what would happen if they didn't get married. And it's like, what is wrong with these people? This is the problem with a lot of relationships, regardless of whether these are relationships with friends, family, spouses, fiancés, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Because we try to fit a square peg in a round hole. Instead of finding somebody that fits and then choosing to marry them, we choose the person we want to marry, and we figure out ways and loopholes, and we construct all of these, this special obstacle course of how we're going to get over these humps. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we pick the person we want to marry, whether it's based on, money, looks, the butterflies that we feel, whatever that situation is, and then we figure out a way to have a relationship with them instead of having a good relationship and then getting married. And that's the problem. Like, they won't even consider not getting married. And I feel like it's clear that they either should drastically delay the wedding so that they can work on themselves, or just not get married at all. The fact that they aren't even considering what would happen when they're not getting married is that they're not taking this relationship, they're not taking this healing process seriously. I mean, why wouldn't you answer the question? She asked the question for a purpose. And it was weird because, like, a lot of times when one partner is kind of unreasonable, which I felt about Jill, the other person comes along and has like a little bit more clarity. And it seems like Jill and Ray are like equally disillusioned. Like, both of them are just so wrapped up in getting married that they don't see that they're not prepared for it. It's actually very weird. But moving on, something weird happens, and Chris Brown gets defensive when she brings up the 4 P's: the protection, providing, pleasing, performing. And then he was like, he basically claimed that Iyanla said that he couldn't do 3 out of those 4 things. And Iyanla said, I never said nothing like that to you. So I rewound it, and I was like, just like Iyanla said, she asked you if you could fulfill these 4 P's, and you said basically no to 3 of them. So she didn't put anything on him. She just posed the question and he answered it. But he somehow made up in his mind that she told him that he couldn't perform, that he couldn't provide. She didn't say that. What's wrong with him? Moving on. Iyanla was like, let's get real, okay? What do you all need to say to each other? Because you resent him because he can't do stuff around the house, and you think that she's controlling because you can't do stuff around the house. Why can't you all just say that to each other? What's wrong? So Jill didn't seem to know that he felt that she was controlling, when he claims that he has said that to her multiple times, but whatever. He confesses that she felt like that he feels that she was controlling, and Jill resents that she has to step up because he doesn't, or that she feels that he can't. So when he told her that he wants her to stop trying to take control or whatever, she felt like she heard that he feels like less of a man when she takes control. And Iyanla was like, he didn't say that. It's so weird that the whole show, everybody was misunderstanding each other. Not Iyanla, but the both of them. Jill and Ray have constructed something in their minds where they don't actually hear what somebody is saying, and they hear what they want to believe. Like, they don't actually listen. They have a problem with listening. He accused Iyanla of saying that he, couldn't fulfill 3 out of the 4 P's. Jill felt like Iyanla was trying to break them up before they even got really started in the process. He says he don't like how controlling she can be, and she thinks that she's emasculating him when he didn't say that. This whole entire episode was them misunderstanding stuff. Yeah. Something not right. Anyway, moving on. Iyanla decides to split them up, have them staying in separate hotels during the night, and she feels like there's definitely something more to the story. So it's day 2, and Iyanla is working with Ray. He calls himself passive, and he was like, oh, well, you saying there's something wrong with being passive? And she said, no, I didn't say that. Like, that's what I'm talking about. You are here, and you and Jill have misunderstood everything that I have said. She showed him the receipts from the 4P conversation. Like I said, I rewound it and saw the exact same thing. That she asked him those questions, and he responded that he could not perform 3 out of those 4P words. And she was like, you have some type of filter that prevents you from actually hearing what somebody says, and for you to make it into whatever you want it to be. And so she asked him, do you want the red or the blue pill? And as soon as he says, give me the real pill, she goes in on how nice, nasty Jill is. Now, apparently, Jill has said some things about Iyanla's crew, and they've been very nice and nasty, and she wants to know how Jill's nasty attitude plays out in her relationship with Ray. Now, Ray says that he's basically immune. She's not like that with me. Then Iyanla brings something up. Now, what I didn't talk about is the scene where they were on the patio. Iyanla asked them about their first argument, and they said it was over a can of soda. Later on, Iyanla finds out from her crew that they didn't tell the full story. That somehow, out of the can of them, him drinking a can of her soda and not replacing it, he ended up going to jail over that. When she said that he went to jail over a can of soda, I laughed so hard. And I feel bad for laughing because I paused it right after she said that. I paused it and laughed when Iyanla said that Jill called the police on him behind a can of soda. I thought that was so funny. And then when I played it again, she said that he was in a wheelchair and he ended up going to jail. And I was like, dang. Like, the fact that he thinks that her nasty attitude does not impact him, and that he had to spend time in jail behind a soda because she was drunk. Why would you be with somebody? Let me tell you something. I ain't going to jail for nobody. If I were to ever go to jail behind some type of disagreement or domestic disturbance, guess what? I'm not being with that person no more. If I go to jail when we have a disagreement, there's no way we're supposed to be together. Why does he put up with that? Iyanla is asking him, why is it okay with you that you go to jail over a can of soda? And he's like, well, it's not okay with me. But, like, if it's not okay with you, you break up with somebody. If somebody does something that major that impacts your life, you have to go to classes to get this thing expunged from your record. This might be why he's not able to get a job. Now that I'm thinking about it, he could probably have a sedentary job where he sits down for most of the day, because I have a sedentary job, and he can perform work. But if he has a domestic disturbance violation on his record, that might be a part of the reason why he can't get a job. It's because she sent him to jail over a can of soda and she was drunk. What in the world? The fact that he would allow something like that to happen means that he is okay with it. The fact that he would get back with her after that situation means that he is okay with it. He's like, well, she's paying for it too because we got to go to classes and blah, 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 blah. No way. This is not on her record. There's no way that this has impacted her as much as it has impacted him. The fact that Ray feels like he has to apologize for, like, he's not just passive, he's a doormat. And I wonder if he was like this before the amputation. I don't know. Moving on. He doesn't seem to have a vision for himself or the marriage. And he gave himself away when he said, I want us to have a good wedding. And she's like, yeah, that's all y'all prepare for. A wedding and not marriage. So moving on, during one of the last scenes, we see Jill and Iyanla talking outside. So apparently, Iyanla's team was 2 hours late or 2.5 hours late to pick Jill up from the hotel. They told her to check out of the hotel at 9 so that they could pick her up around that time, but instead they didn't come till 11:30. So the issue that I have with that is Iyanla is very vocal when people are not on time, when people are not punctual. I just yesterday watched the episodes of Braxton Family Values where they had Iyanla on there to help their family. And Iyanla left the production for the day because Tamar showed up like 2 hours and 30 minutes later, 2 hours and 15 minutes late. And she said that because, you are not being respectful and because I do not give you permission to treat me this way, I'm not going to put up with it. And basically, I'll see y'all tomorrow. That's what happened on that episode with the Braxtons. Now, I find it weird that Iyanla was coming up with excuses for her crew when it came to punctuality. Now, I like Iyanla. I think she does a great job. And I hope that she jumped down the throats of her team members the way that she and showed that same type of anger that she showed towards the Braxtons and all the other guests that show up late, and don't show up on time for the healing process. But I didn't like that Iyanla came up with excuses. It seemed incongruent to me personally. But moving on, Jill finally had this kind of nice, nasty energy that Iyanla was talking about and saying that, they were unprofessional. They didn't give her any updates on when somebody would be there. And I am definitely not mad at Jill for being upset about having to wait 2.5 hours for them to do what they said they were going to do. It is definitely, to me, unprofessional of them not to provide her with updates or, anything of that nature. I'm not mad at Jill for being mad about that, okay? I don't like waiting on other people as well. But I think it's far-fetched for Jill to think that they were icing her out for 2 hours so that she would be upset and riled up when she went into the healing process. Iyanla said that basically the whole reason that she was going to talk to Jill before they all sat down and talked together was so that she could get all of this negative energy out of the way so that she would be open to the healing process when they join Ray inside. So, what's funny is that Jill felt like that they were trying to rile her up and get her angry for the ratings. And what's funny is that regardless of whether or not that was true, it still worked. They still got you riled up. And it still probably positively helped the ratings of the show. So, if that knowledge didn't help you in one way or another, then why does it matter? If they riled you up, if you felt like it was true that they riled you up for ratings, you helped them out either way. But moving on, Jill does have this very nasty energy, and while she's talking to Iyanla, she's talking over Iyanla, and while neither one of them is really yelling, she does have this attitude where I don't know if Iyanla is here to actually help us. With some of the things that she had said, and Iyanla was like, "Okay, enough of this. Enough. We're gonna cut this. We're going to cut this." And Iyanla was like, it's so weird that you could be this mean and this nasty towards me who's here to help you when and not be this way towards your soon to be husband. How are you not displaying this same attitude towards your husband? And it's so weird. I think people feel like when they have these type of attitudes that they can rein them in when they have to, and that she can rein in her nasty attitude when it comes to Ray. And Iyanla was like, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to say things that are nice nasty, you can just have that energy about you. And I agree with that. That people, it's very challenging for people to actually split themselves into basically two different people and be one way with one person and be a totally different way or be better to another person. So, because if it's inside of you, it's going to come out. So, anyways, Iyanla said they're going to cut this because, they don't trust the process. And without trust, they don't really have anything. There's nothing that Iyanla can do. So she goes in there and talks to Ray with Jill. And Ray started talking about something irrelevant, talking about, Jill's safety. And Iyanla's like, well, she's a grown woman in a hotel lobby. She, knows how to be safe. Like, what are you talking about? That's totally irrelevant. And Jill's complaint wasn't about safety. Iyanla's team, again, like I said, doesn't seem to have the same level of professionalism and timeliness as Iyanla. But I wonder if Iyanla reprimanded her team. I wonder how that went. But at the end of the day, Iyanla said, because y'all can't trust the process, there's nothing else for us to do. He took his prosthetic leg and all of his bags and stuff, and they left. And Jill was like, oh, get your stuff. You know how your mama tell you, okay, go grab your stuff so we can go? That's how Jill talked to Ray. And he seemed content with having somebody who can control him, even though he, resents the fact that she tries to control him. And then she resents the fact that she has to try to control him. And they just go into a big circle. I would never wish anything on anybody's marriage because I know marriage is a very serious part of your life. But I think that if they do get married and if they do last, they are going to have major, major issues. I don't think that they're ready to get married. They were not ready for this healing process. They weren't even ready to have the hard conversations. And what is marriage if not a hard conversation? Like telling somebody that you're going to be there with them through thick and thin and doing it and loving it and being there for that person. And they resent each other, while they're going through this storm of thick and thin. Like right now, it's a little thick and neither one of them can express that I'm having a hard time dealing with how thick this whole situation is. It's a little sad. But anyways, I think that they would do better if they did not get married. I think that Jill can be unpleasant, and I think that Ray is a pushover, no pun intended. And I think that they weren't ready to heal. Everything is so, superficial. Everything is so on the surface with them. And when they're ready to dig deep and get down to the root of things, that would be great. They should probably seek counseling from some person who does not have, the platform that Iyanla does. If they went to a counselor that's not on TV, maybe a religious counselor or just a therapist, a couples counselor, maybe it would do them some good because the distrust came from this being a TV show. But you signed up to be on the TV show. People just don't be making no sense. Thank you all for watching. This video was a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I just had a lot of things to say. But thank you for watching for those of you who have watched to the end. And peace out, home slices.